All right.
Great. Hi, and welcome to Business Unusual. I'm Liz Whitehead, CEO of 12.5 and co-mastermind at Diversity Masterminds. And we're talking business unusual. What do business owners do when they're not doing business as usual? So my guest today is Faizun Kamal. And Faizun, tell us about what you are doing, what your business is.
Wonderful. Liz, it's so lovely to talk to you again. It's been a couple of years since we met. So lovely. It's like a full coming around full circle. So delighted about that. What do? I run a consulting practice, Liz. Very specifically, I run a franchise consulting business. For many people who hear that for the first time, they say, "What does that even mean? I didn't even know that was a thing." It's very much a thing. Um, think of me, Liz, as a two-trick pony. I just do two things really. One that we refer to as franchise consulting, where a client comes to me and says, "Hey, Faizun, I've thought about starting a business for some time now. Don't quite know where to start, what to look at, what would be good for me. Could you help me find a franchise business that would be the right fit for me?" So in the industry, Liz, we call that franchise consulting. On the other end of the spectrum, if you will, I also do what we refer to as franchise development. And this is where a business owner, let's say you, come to me and you say, "Hey, Faizun, I've run this business now for X years, and there are a couple of things going on. I no longer have the time that I need to devote to continue growing the business the way I'd like to. And secondly, I've invested a lot of my own money into the business. I just can't do that anymore. But I still want to grow the business. And as I think about it, it seems to me that perhaps one of the best ways for me to grow my brand, grow its footprint nationwide potentially, is to be able to turn my business into a national franchise brand." And that's what I work with this second group of clients on, helping turn their business into a national franchise.
Great.
Franchise.
Awesome. Well, it's something that I never thought about existing either. So I'm so glad that we're connecting and talking about it.
Absolutely.
So before we get into my usual questions, what are the things that your clients are coming to you about now as we're doing business unusual because of the COVID-19 crisis?
Absolutely. And this might seem very counterintuitive, maybe to you, maybe to your listeners. I will tell you, I am probably 10 times busier post pandemic than I was pre pandemic, which, for the person who's not in my industry doing franchises, you might be like, "What? Are people actually looking to start a business in the middle of a global pandemic?" And the answer is yeah, because, well, for a number of reasons. But this is what I'm seeing, Liz. I have had people reach out to me who are saying, for the first time really in my life, I am spending this kind of time at home, surrounded by my family. I have spent a lot of quality time with them that I never really have because I've always been so busy with my career. I've been traveling, I've been doing this, that, and the other, and that piece of my life is not where I need it to be. Second, for the first time in my life, being in this lockdown situation has really allowed me to get more reflective and to really ask myself, the career path that I am on, that very much impacts the life that I lead, is this the path that I should be on? Is there something else out there? Something more, something different, something that fulfills some part of me that I never thought would ever be fulfilled in the job, in the career path that I am on. I think a lot of people, Liz, have gotten very introspective, and many people who may have lightly entertained the idea of starting their own thing, but said, I'll do it someday when I have time. They've run out of that excuse because all they have is time on their hands, right? And they're saying, like I said, it's a more, I think as the world took a pause, I think many people took a pause and said, I feel like I've been on this hamster wheel. Let me slow down a little bit. Let me get a little more reflective and ask myself, is this really what I want to do moving forward? That's one big thing. I think the second big thing, Liz, in terms of COVID-19, it's very interesting. Here we are, 2020. I see some of the very same things happening in my industry that happened in 2008 in the last Great Recession. Very interesting. It's, some big economist out there talked about this sort of cyclical things that happen with the economy. It'll go really well, and people are making lots of money, everybody's buying, selling, the economy is great, but at some point the boom will become a bust, and it's a cycle that continues indefinitely. I think in this case, now you could say the 2008 recession had different reasons for happening. This is more of a health related viral type of thing. That notwithstanding, the impacts I find are very similar. So in this recession, I have had now many clients reach out who they have been talking to me about transforming their business into a franchise, and they didn't know if it was the right time. They were kind of not moving as fast necessarily, who redoubled and come back to me and said, oh my God, I think there's a real opportunity here. There are a lot of people who've already lost their jobs. Think about it, right? Mm-hmm. You turn on the news, unemployment numbers are through the roof. Well, if you suddenly have a very large pool of highly educated, highly talented people available for hire, many of those people, Liz, are not going to go back into the corporate world. They've been laid off. They feel, no pun intended, disenfranchised with their careers, right? And they're saying, you know what? Perhaps this is really a blessing in disguise. Maybe this is my opportunity to explore something else. That is what I have been seeing, both on the franchise consulting side, where people are looking to start a business, and then on the development side, where business owners are saying, oh my God, I need to take advantage of the huge opportunity that this huge disruption has caused and turn my business into a franchise.
That's such an interesting way to look at it. And I love what you said about reflecting, this time of reflection, because I too have been very busy. I've got my kids at home and that makes things busy, but there is somehow, without the commuting or the constant activity, this time to reflect. And you can really relate to that with your clients too, right? Because that's what you went through.
Absolutely, Liz. I mean, you and I, we met when I was in the corporate world. Yeah. And I think the best way to describe my life then and my life now is it's night and day. Being a highly paid corporate employee with a sexy sounding title and all of that good stuff, that's great. And it can be meaningful to a lot of people. In the final analysis for me, it wasn't enough, because that is not, my internal values did not align with what I was doing externally in the world. And I'd always felt that for a very, very long time. And I think for me, it came to a head when I was in corporate. And so, finally, when several years ago, I got laid off, very much the same way that many people right now are getting laid off. I took that huge disruption in my life as an opportunity. Instead of kind of sliding into this deep, dark hole of, oh my God, I'm worthless, I don't have a job, what's going to happen to me, I'm without any opportunity. I took that and I said, I don't have anything holding me back now. I've always looked, I've always been searching, I've always wondered what my true path was. And, in that, and by the way, Liz, before I found what I now refer to as my calling, doing the work that I now do with clients, Liz, I spent about 9 months, maybe. I didn't realize it at the time, sabbatical of sorts. Mm-hmm. I took that time to say, for the first time in my life, again, very much like what I see many of my clients say to me when they came to me. I have, this time that I have had in the morning at the crack of dawn, I don't have to jump out of bed, get ready, put on the makeup, put on the face, and then drive into work. Oh my God, my morning just opened up. So, people are getting up, their families are around them. They're saying, oh, I want to go on a nice long walk. They're more reflective, they're more meditative. And in many ways, my dear, I think and I've said this now for many years, I think we live in the midst of what I call probably one of the largest silent social epidemics, and that is hundreds of thousands of highly qualified, educated professionals who are leading lives of quiet desperation. They're in these jobs and they might be making great money. And the more money and the more perks that they have, the stronger the shackles are, and they feel they cannot leave. There are many other people. They don't feel like there's really an opportunity out there for them if they leave. I speak to people like that every single week, and it breaks my heart because, as a coach, what's the saying? As a coach, I can take you to where something is, but it is not, I am not being a coach if I tell you what to look at. You have to be able to have the eyes to see that. And so I speak every week to people who say, well, Faizun, I have done ABC for 27 years. There's not a franchise out there for me. I don't believe I'm good enough to go out there and do something. And, there's a lot of, it's interesting, Liz. Yes, when clients come to me, they are looking for a franchise. But my dear, they're not looking for a franchise. And as we continue to have these conversations and I start to peel back the layers of the onion, that's my client, it comes out where they say, oh my God, Faizun, I feel like I cannot breathe. I've been in this job for all these many years. Yeah, can you help me find a franchise? But more importantly, can you help me redefine? Can you help me realign my career, my next step with something that I really love? Because given the amount of time that we all spend in our career most definitely has an impact on the overall lives that we lead. Can you help me do that and help me create a life that I finally love? It's awesome and it's humbling and it makes the hair on my arm stand when I have these calls with clients. But that is what people are hungering for, Liz. That is what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was having that conversation with someone, with another Business Unusual interviewee, and I said the same thing. Just because you haven't done it before doesn't mean you can't or shouldn't do it now. I've done this for 27 years, or I've done these things, or I've never done that before. It's not a reason not to start, and also a good reason to have a coach to help you.
Absolutely. I mean, I personally get excited. Maybe that's not the word, maybe it's the word, but I am excited by all the opportunities that I see around us right now. Again, for many of your listeners, this might be a little odd, but think about it. Look back on any period in history. Huge disruption equals huge opportunity. And what I tell my clients is, I have no idea what the heck you're going to do. Time will tell. But here's what we can do. Let us set you up now to be in the best possible position to harness those opportunities if you find one that really aligns with you and speaks to who you are. That's what we're doing. Let's explore a couple of different franchises. Let's really go deep into it. Let's look at the business model. Let's figure out, okay, if you were the franchisee, if you were the business owner, what would you need to do to make this business successful? And then let's see, does it gel with who you are? Are those in your superpowers? Or are these more of your blind spots? Let's figure that out. And we go from there. So I think it's that, right? It's who was it that said, I love it. I came across this quote several years ago, and I've never forgotten it. When the winds of change blow, are you going to build walls or are you going to build a windmill? Right?
Yeah.
And I will tell you, my clients fall in either one of those two categories. And the ones that eventually move forward and become a franchisee are the ones who say, no, I don't want to build walls around me. While the wind is blowing, let me build a windmill and harness what I can from this opportunity.
I love that. I love that. What are some examples of the opportunities that you're seeing?
Absolutely. I think right now, Liz, as you might imagine, cleaning businesses are huge for obvious reasons, right? Both residential and commercial cleaning businesses. Home services. So if you are a homeowner, think of all of the different services you might need: plumbing, drywall, HVAC, dryer vent, roofing, flooring, painting, on and on and on. All of these are examples of different types of franchises that offer that service. The home services space continues to be booming because it's what I would call, it's a need to have service, not a nice to have service. Mm-hmm. Nice to have, you have some discretionary income. Sure, you might go out there and, I don't know, get a massage. Nice to have. A need to have service, if you're a homeowner and there was a storm last night and in the morning you wake up and you see water coming down your roof, you're not going to sit around and be like, yeah, let me think about if I'm going to call someone. No, you are going to call someone. That's a need to have. So again, businesses that fall in that need to have space, Liz, absolutely booming, continues to grow. Those are some areas that I'm seeing a lot of interest in from clients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of people are going to be listening to this and thinking about what you're saying about building a windmill during this time to harness the winds of change. And what's one thing that you think is going to stick once we do this period of reflection and we have this disruption? What's one thing that you think is going to stick with us?
I think we're fundamentally going to change the way we lead our lives. So, you have more than 10 people cannot get together in a public space. You must have your mask on when you're out and about. When you go to the grocery store, depending on the grocery store chain, only so many people are allowed inside the store at any point in time. If you trickle those things down into specific businesses, think of us as business owners. Given your business, Liz, I know you do a lot of networking. So do I. Well, what are we doing now? This.
Yeah.
Where, I can go to some place and, meet up with you and give you a hug. So this has to suffice. Think of how quickly you and I pivoted in our businesses, right? I tell you, I am so not technologically advanced in any way. I got Zoom. I figured out how to use it. It was hilarious in the beginning. Like, I had all sorts of bizarre things happening. I still do, by the way, not an expert in any way, but I'm saying we have big or small, we found different ways to adapt and continue to, and really what it boils down to is the word we throw around all the time that's almost become meaningless. We've innovated. How do we do things differently, right? Businesses are now moving entirely online. Right at the top of my mind, I can give you at least half a dozen businesses I know personally who, they had retail locations. There's one in particular that I know. They have 2 locations, one in DC, one in Maryland. 2 retail locations shut down as soon as the pandemic began. And the business owner was like, oh my God, what the heck am I going to do? And they had an online platform. They became much more aggressive about it. They saw a slight dip in sales, say the first week, 2 weeks, when we were sort of in that space where people were like dazed. They did not know what was going on. Think about it. If you think back to March, that first 2 weeks, Liz, it was like the world is going to hell in a handbasket. We're all going to die. There's nothing any of us can do. People were very much in that headspace. After the 2 weeks, once we started to have a sense of what was going on, it was still doom and gloom, but it was more of a psychologically, we are starting to get used to it, if that makes sense.
I know exactly what you're talking about. There was
right?
a period of time when it was very uncertain and people were just they couldn't move forward. They were stuck.
There was like a holding pattern.
And then gradually people were like, well, we have to move forward. I have to get groceries. I have to keep my business going or figure out what I'm going to do with it. I know exactly that period of time you're talking about.
Right. So it's that, again, the beauty of us as humans, Liz, we have to live. What are you going to do? Not go to the grocery store?
Right.
No, you will. What are you going to do if you have kids? My God, I'm almost losing my mind already, right? I have a 6.5-year-old. I know you have 2. So real life at some point creeps back in and says, get the hell up. You have to get up. And then on top of that, if you're a business owner, you and I, if we don't do what we do, we can't put food on the table. We don't have the luxury of, I don't know, sitting around, being in shock indefinitely. We all were in shock, yes. But I think now we are in that space where we are saying, how do we innovate? How do we do these different things? I had a conversation with someone last week, and they said, "Oh, I've put my marketing campaign on hold. I'm not going to spend any more money on that." And I said, "Really?" I said, "Tell me why. Do you think that's a wise thing to do?" And she said, "Well, Faizun, that was, yeah, it was a fixed expense, but now with people not buying anything, I can't continue spending the marketing dollars." Now, here's the thing. I think there are two ways to respond to anything. There's sort of the visceral, emotional gut reaction. Oh my God, I need to hunker down. The wind is blowing. I need to build the walls around me. And everything comes to a grinding halt. Or you can have a little bit of a longer perspective and timeline to say, at some point, this bloody pandemic is also going to be behind us. There are vaccines that will be developed. There are things that are going to happen. It already is. So when that time comes and we are able to move around more freely and businesses come back out again, if I haven't been marketing for the last X months, what position do I find myself in? Back to the conversation I have with clients, I have no idea what business you're going to buy. But right now, make sure you put yourself in the strongest possible position for down the road. If you do decide to buy, you can take advantage of the opportunities that are coming down the pike. So, for the marketing campaigns, so she said, oh, blah, 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 blah. And, I feel like a complete, pardon my French, I feel like a complete douchebag if I'm marketing and, people are suffering, people have lost their jobs, blah, blah, blah. So I said, look, I understand that. But do you also understand that marketing just doesn't mean, I know Liz is going through a hard time. I'm still going to continue hammering on her to buy my product.
Right.
That
Everything's
is not
going
the
to
only
stop.
way.
Hashtag pandemic. Like that's not what it is right now.
That's not what it is, right? So I said, instead of doing your straight up marketing campaign, why don't you do a nurturing campaign? And she's like, what do you mean? I said, go look at my social media, see what I've done. I do not have a huge marketing budget by any means, by any stretch of the imagination. I'm a small business, just like you are. But here's what I have done. I continue to remain front and center in front of my clients because when all of this is swirling around us, I don't want to disappear into my little cave. I want to be out there and say, hey, Liz, I know this is tough. I'm just as scared as you are. But think back every time in history, have we not gone through similar things and come out the other end stronger? And we will too, again. However it is you want to do, but you want to maintain those open lines of communication. And I think those businesses, those brands that are able to be there and create a sense of community. You're not in this alone. I'm in this with you. I'm not hammering you to buy my product or service because that's completely inappropriate. That's not what we should be doing. But if I can remain there with you while we go through this, chances are you will remember me once this is all behind us. But you won't remember the people who are continuing to do the sort of hard-nosed, salesy kind of marketing.
Yeah.
So again, that's an example, right? You've got to be able to figure out ways to be a chameleon. I mean, I know that has negative connotations typically, but chameleon as in adapt yourself to the scenario, to the situation that you're in.
Yeah. And I think what you're talking about too, overall about all this stuff is your mindset. It's easy to tell from you that you're grounded in reality, but have a forward looking mindset. And I think that that's probably a big differentiator in the people. Again, I love your analogy, the people that build walls and the people that build windmills,
Yeah.
taking that time to reflect to get your mind in a spot that can move you forward. So,
And interestingly, I attract who I am. I mean,
right.
think about it, Liz. The people you end up working with, right? I
Yeah.
attract people who are like me, who have that, like, don't really know, this is a little scary, but damned if I'm going to be just, hunkered down. I want to use this time. Faizun, I don't know if I will end up doing this, but I want to explore. And really, that is the most that I ask for somebody coming in. Come in with an open mind because there's so much out there. But if all of these things that you're telling me, oh, I want to escape the 9 to 5. I really want to be able to build wealth for my family. I really want to be able to live my life my way. If these things are really true for you, let's explore.
Now,
Let's
how do they find you? If they are those people, how do they find you?
Absolutely. So interestingly, we talked about pivoting and innovation, right? I have built a business entirely on speaking, Liz. So I have, up until the pandemic, I've had regularly scheduled workshops, educational workshops that I do in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And I do them in partnership with different organizations. These are typically, I mean, they run the gamut. Veteran focused organization, women's focused business organizations, chambers of commerce, what have you. I partner with them and I come in, it's typically an hour in person live workshop where I'll give you sort of the lay of the land, if you will, a franchising 101. If you are looking to buy a franchise, here are some things that you would need to consider. Um, my best clients have all come to me from these workshops. So then the pandemic happens, and we are all kind of flailing around for a couple of weeks. And then, very much in that same spirit of innovation, these partners of mine, they came back and they said, Faizun, we've started to do these Zoom webinars. When can we schedule the next one with you? So if you think about it from that perspective, Liz, in many ways, my business, this is what I meant when I said, I'm probably 10 times busier now than I was before the pandemic, coupled with the fact that one, I continue to do my workshops, albeit in a different format. Couple that with the fact that people are sitting at home with time on their hands, and they're finally, for the first time, for many people, starting to think about, what does my life look like? It's funny. I had this one particular person, this was probably Monday, Tuesday of last week. Get on a call with him. He was hilarious. And he found me on LinkedIn because I'm very active on social media. And he's a VP for marketing at a company that we all know. And he said, yeah, Faizun, I still have my job. I haven't lost my job. People around me, they keep saying, I can't wait to go back to how things were. I don't want to go back to how things were. I don't want to go back to my shitty job. I started laughing. And I mean, he was so honest, and it was such a visceral response. It was beautiful because I think many people are thinking that, and they're asking themselves, do I want to? Do I want to spend an hour each way on my commute? Spend my day with people I don't particularly care for? Many people have multiple bosses with conflicting agendas. Do I want to go back into that world that I have lived for so many years? And the answer that they're getting back is no. So if the answer is no, okay, now what do you do? Now what do you start exploring?
Great. So
Yeah.
what's your website? Where can they get to those workshops?
The best way to reach out to me is connect with me on LinkedIn first.
Great.
I've been told apparently there's only one Faizun Kamal on LinkedIn. I know. So apparently I'm not that hard to find. So I don't do well. You and I are connected, so maybe that's not going to work.
And I'll
But
put
if
the
you're
link. I'll put the link in
exactly,
the chat.
exactly. So connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. My email is pretty simple. It's Faizun at thefranchiseconsultingcompany.com. Always available. Always love to hop on a call with anyone who's interested. And for your listeners, I want to say I would love to send a copy of my book to anyone who reaches out to me.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is so every client who works with me, I give them a copy of that. It's a very handy guide, if you will. So when you begin working with me, you can cheat a little bit and read through the book first, because then that'll tell you exactly what's coming down the pike. But yeah, would love to chat with anyone who's potentially considering a change in their careers.
Awesome. Well, I hope people reach out to you. And Faizun, thank you so much for joining us on Business Unusual. And we will see you next time on Business
Absolutely. You take good care, my friend. Bye
Unusual.
now.
Bye.